evening, everyone. Welcome to the Music Box. This right here is why I love Guardians fans. Tornadoes, thunderstorms, screw it! We're going to go find out what's happening this year. Thank you so much for coming out, guys. Very happy to get this kind of crowd on this kind of night. You know, I always say Clevelanders think they're a wicked witch and they're just going to melt if they go out in the snow. I mean, the rain. So, guys, my name is Mike Miller. For the last 12 years, this is our 12th year of this series. I've announced that I was the managing partner of this joint. I'm no longer the managing partner of this joint. About 4 weeks ago, about 4 weeks ago, we transferred the ownership of the Music Box over to the employees. This is now an employee-owned business, and I work for them. Very proud of that, guys. As always, I like to plug a couple things. First of all, I love seeing the tall Yuengling cans. Yuengling is, there you go. Yuengling is a sponsor of this series. They give us some money to help promote it and have been great supporters for a number of years. But I'm most proud of the fact that from day one, again, this is our 12th year of this series, we've had the Western Reserve Historical Society as marketing partner on this, and they help us promote our events. And they're now the Cleveland History Center in University Circle, one of the great museums here in Cleveland, just one of the fabulous museums. I always tell folks, I know you want to bring people to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when they're in town. The second stop should be the Cleveland History Center. It is an amazing place, and right in the lobby, hate to say this, Bobby, is the old Wahoo.
You don't have to.
From the old stadium downtown.
Yeah, you don't have to be sorry. I actually played a role in the fact that that is there.
All right.
It took us, quick story on that. Dick Jacobs called 6 of his friends. We were in a meeting, and he turned to myself and Jim Folk, recently retired vice president of our ballpark operations. And he said, how much would it cost to fix Chief Wahoo from the stadium? It was neon, and you couldn't find neon anymore. And so Jim and I huddled for a second, and $60,000, Dick, it's going to cost $60,000. So he gets up, walks out of the room, called 6 of his friends, and made them each pay $10,000 to make sure that Chief Wahoo, so we could get it in the lobby of the Western Reserve.
Oh, I thought he called them this. Yeah. I thought he called them to see, do you want this in your backyard?
Yeah.
I would have taken it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'm very proud of our upcoming lineup. You've got it on your table. Take it home. Put it on your refrigerator. Next week, I've been bugging this lady. There would not be, in my mind, a rock and roll scene like we have here in Cleveland without Cindy Barber from the Beachland. Yep. And so she's coming next week to tell some backstage stories of all her experiences in Cleveland in rock and roll. A special night, guys. Please plan on attending next week. The week after that is also a new storyteller. He's written several books about Cleveland mysteries, mostly true crime. So it's going to be all about murders. That's on April 16th. Unsolved murders, I should say. That's what I should have called it. Thursday, April 16th. So put that on the calendar, guys. How are you, Bobby?
Doing great, boss. Doing great.
All right. Now, you know how we start this because you're born and bred Clevelander, I know.
Lakewood, Ohio.
All right. So tell the folks, where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school?
Lakewood, Ohio. My two older brothers are here, Dan and Tony. Our father was very instrumental for close to 50 years in the Lakewood City schools. So any of you live in Lakewood or nearby and you drive by Lakewood High on Franklin Boulevard, there is a street, Tony DiBiasio Way, that circles the front of the high school by Johnny Appleseed. It's named after our father, who was an administrator, a coach, and
Are you saying
so
it just goes around in a continuous
it's
circle?
big circle. You just keep going, and so went elementary, junior high school in Lakewood, Ohio Wesleyan University, and then Ohio State for my master's in journalism. And I spent about 6 months as a sports writer in Fremont, Ohio for the Fremont News Messenger. I called myself the assistant sports editor because there were only two of us on the entire staff. There was the sports editor and me. And so I said, well, hell, I'm the assistant sports editor. And then I was able to join the Cleveland Indians organization in 1979.
All right, do the math on that, guys. It was the last century, by the way. All right, so you joined the Cleveland Indians organization. Define what was your first job? What did you do?
I was the assistant PR director because there was only two of us. There was Harry Jones. Some of the older group here will remember Harry Jones. Harry Jones covered the Cleveland Indians for the Plain Dealer for a couple decades. One of the best beat writers in America. And then he was on television, Channel 8, when Mudcat Grant and Harry Jones did the games on TV8. And then as it was, late in his career, as was the habit of professional sports back in the early 70s, because PR for professional sports teams really didn't happen until the mid-50s, 60s. It was a relatively new profession. There's no such thing as sports management curriculum or any of that sort of thing on the college campuses. So older TV or radio people ended their career as the PR person. And Joe Bick was the assistant to Harry. He was being promoted to the assistant to the president, Gabe Paul. So there was an opening, and I was lucky enough to get that and start with the club in February of 1979, and have been fooling them ever since.
There you go. All right. How would you describe your typical day back in 1970?
Well, I'm glad you said back then, because my typical day is nowhere near as I'm going to share this with you. I probably shouldn't. It's very embarrassing, but our HR department decided in our internal website, and Patrick, my son's here, our daughter Julie's here, and my wife Penny, of course, and tell if I'm wrong, Patch. But on our website, internal website, you go to the organizational chart, and you click on that, and at the very top, it's Paul Dolan. And there's 4 direct lines under Paul. The first one is Chris Antonetti, president of baseball operations. And next to him in parentheses is something like 379 people that he is in charge, all the players, all the staff, everybody. Then the next line is Brian Barron, who is going to retire at the end of the year, and a young man in our organization, Alex King, will become president of business operations. And the parentheses next to him is something like 270 or whatever. When I first started February of 79, there were 30 of us in the front office. The business side right now is at 270 something. So the third direct line to him is me. I report directly to Paul. And in that parentheses, Close your eyes. What do you see? A big fat 0. Nobody reports to me. It's nirvana. And then the fourth one is Joe Zindarsik, our lawyer, the legal counsel.
You have about 1,000 there?
No, 2. We have 2 other attorneys, so we have 3 attorneys. So when you ask, what's my typical day, it's a whole lot different today than it was when I was in charge of 18, 19 people, and we were running ragged from 8:30 in the morning to midnight, and
running ragged doing what?
Well, media relations, public relations, community relations, broadcasting. Back then, we did the program, so publications. We were running hard. And in the beginning, it was Selectric typewriters, no email, no cell phones. There were times when Gabe Paul would come into my office on a Friday, and we're all itching, the team's on the road, and it's time to get the hell out of the office and have some fun for the weekend, because I wasn't on the road trip at that time. And he'd say, hey, I'm going to make a deal today, so sit tight, because he couldn't find you. If I go out and about, how's he going to find me? There were no cell phones again. So I'd sit in my office for like 2 hours, and now it's like 7 o'clock at night. And like an idiot, I waited 2 hours. I'd get up and I'd walk by his office, and he's gone. Like, what the hell? And Penny would sit there and go, are you coming home? Or not? I said, I don't know. We're going to make a trade. I said, I think we're going to make a trade. But it was, setting up all the interviews, dealing all with player requests, handling all of that.
How many games could you watch? How many games a year in those early years that you could actually sit and watch a game?
Oh, none. Yeah, you're running the press box. I just did a speaking gig in Seven Hills, and one of the young men who were on the board of the Chamber of Commerce in Seven Hills is Danny Coughlin's son, John. And we were talking, and it just brought back all these memories. Sitting in the press box, and Danny Coughlin, those of you who read the paper every day would remember, would do a 4-line poem to lead off every story of every game. And I'd sit next to him in the press box, and he'd always turn over and like, what rhymes with so-and-so? What rhymes with so? And I'm like, all right, Danny, we'll get this. But if the game turned, like all of a sudden we're losing 5-2 and we hit a grand slam, or we end up having a 5-run inning in the bottom of the 8th, and he's already written his 4-line poem, and he's got to do it within 20 minutes of deadline. Oh, man, his hair was pulling out. He was, that Irish temper would be something special. So he and I would sit there and write 4-line poems every night. I didn't, I'll say for 35 of now my 48th year, I was in the press box working. Now I get to sit in the stands and watch games.
All right.
Yeah.
That's, I
have
don't
some
think
fun.
everybody realizes that. Yeah. You work in baseball, you never see baseball.
No, unless you're in the media part of it. My son's works for us. He's in the corporate partner world, so he's running around the ballpark taking care of corporate sponsors and people of that ilk. And so, you're not sitting and watching. I had to, because back then we were the official record keeper. Our scorebooks, while there was an official scorer that determined whether a ball was a hit or an error, our scorebook was the official scorebook.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So the coolest one, obviously, was Lenny Barker's perfect game.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you have a copy of that?
I do at home. I have that scorebook at home. And
that's probably worth something.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We're hoping to build a museum at Progressive Field once we have gotten through every bit of the renovations that we have put in place for the last 6-7 years to turn over our ballpark for the next 30-plus years. Can you imagine opening day on Friday is going to be our 33rd opening day in that building?
Wow.
33rd. I mean, it's
and
crazy. It's a blink of an eye.
It is, but you should be very proud because it's still, I think, one of the best ballparks in the country. It feels fresh every time I walk in it. It feels like it's a happening place, and there's nothing old about it. 33 years have passed in a blink, but
you must have voted in that USA Today survey that ranked us behind Philadelphia's ballpark as the second best ballpark in America.
There you go.
And they actually had us down as the best food of any ballpark in the country. We've got a few new. If you're a fan of spicy Thai French fries, we got them for you this year. A steak sandwich and a number of other new marketplace concept. Those of you that love to come to our building, we have 35 new grab and go areas because, again, we have analytics that tells us what you do the moment you walk in our ballpark, how many people are at this stand at this time.
I get a beer.
Yeah.
I go right for
most people do. Yeah, most people have a specific beer that they go to. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to surprise you. I want to jump back in time.
Okay.
I haven't done that in a couple years. And I want you to tell a story about Albert Bell's bat confiscated, where it got confiscated. You haven't told that one in a while. And how that bat was retrieved. So tell that story, because it's been
the
a
one
while.
in Chicago. Yes, all right. So we're on the road in Chicago, and the umpires are told by the White Sox manager and coaching staff, Albert had just hit a home run, so confiscate the bat. It's got to be corked, and
they do, right?
So they do confiscate the bat, and they put it in the umpire's room. And the umpire's room in the old Comiskey Park was situated directly between the visitors' clubhouse and the home clubhouse. And the umpire's room is the property of the home team clubhouse staff to do their towels, to do their laundry, to make sure everything's okay for their toilets and the shower and the whole bit. That's the home team. So there's home team people in and out of the umpire's room, again, doing laundry and such. So our traveling secretary, Michael Segge, and Jason Grimsley decide that they think they could crawl through the ceiling because it's right next door. And so Jason Grimsley is climbing through the ceiling, and he's got, brilliant guy Jason, a Paul Sereno bat with him, not even Albert Bell bat, only because Albert didn't bring any non-cork bats that trip. So he was going to replace it with a Paul Sereno bat. And as he's dangling from the ceiling, going to get the bat, their clubhouse guy comes walking in and just looks at him. And he's like, Jason, what in the God's name are you doing? And he said, can we make a trade? You could have this bat, and I'll take. And he's like, you better get your ass back to your clubhouse, because I got to report you. I can't let this just slide. And so after the game, he had to tell the umpires that we were unsuccessful in our attempt to. The one other time, Albert and I were really tight, and then we weren't. And now we text a lot. When Kevin Kennedy, remember the famous showing his muscle in the dugout after a homer in the postseason? Well, they confiscated his bat at that game too, and it was not corked, and that's why Albert went over and showed Kevin Kennedy, the manager of the Red Sox, that it was pure muscle that he hit the home run. And after the game, post-game press conference, Dr. Brown, Dr. Bobby Brown, American League president, standing up at the podium, and he's holding Albert's bat, which was sliced in half. and they sliced it horizontally just above the trademark. And I had heard that they had not only x-rayed it, but they sliced it up. And all of us were worried, because if they would have sliced it vertically, you wouldn't have known. And that's the only way to tell. The cork never got down to where the trademark was. I could teach you how to cork a bat if anybody wants to know. So they cut it horizontally, and there's Dr. Brown holding the two pieces, and we found that Albert's got clean bats, and no, we're not doing anything. This is a dead issue. We're done. So then he turns and hands it to me, the two pieces. So I'm walking back to the clubhouse, and I'm like, all right, what do I do with this? It really wasn't thinking about museum piece, which I should have. So I go up to Albert in the clubhouse, and I was like, hey, AB, and he's staring in his locker. It's like, AB. I had to do it like 3 times. AB. And he looks, he goes, what do you want? I said, you want this? This is your bat. You want this? These two pieces? And he goes, what the hell am I going to do with that? I got up, he went to the shower, I put it in his locker, and to this day, neither he or I know where the hell those two pieces of the bat are. But an unbelievable piece of memorabilia, that's for sure.
Oh, my God.
Not sure where it is.
Maybe the other team snuck in and got it?
Yeah, maybe.
All right.
Maybe.
I know you have to have some stories about Joe Charbonneau.
Well, JoJo, 1980 Rookie of the Year. Sandy was 1990 Rookie of the Year. Herbie Score was a 1955 Rookie of the Year. Joe was a hardworking athlete and sadly powerful hitter. Diving into second base like Rick Manning. Both head-first slides jam their backs. And Joe's knocked the vertebrae off, lower back, and it just ruined him. Again, we're talking 1980. The surgeries then nowhere near what they are today in sports medicine. And so his career was cut very short. Most all of the stories about opening beer bottles with his eye socket and drinking beer through that shit never happened. It was just Bob Sudik of the Cleveland Press and a few others, and Joe would play along with them. Say, yeah, just having fun with them and playing along. And so the stories just grew and grew and grew, and we weren't going to stop it because they were fun. And the legend of Joe, Super Joe, there was a song about him. Terry Pluto wrote a book about him. He was, I think, only the third player in the history of the old Yankee Stadium to hit a ball in the third deck in left field. That's how strong he was. And it's a shame that his career was derailed from a back injury.
Yeah. All right. Did Rocky Colavito really put a curse on the team?
Well, that's Bobby Bragan was the one who supposedly put the curse on us, and he cursed Rocky Colavito and the team because he got fired, and he always, as the manager, and thought that Rocky didn't like him, so therefore Rocky got him fired. So that's how the curse of Rocky Colavito. Rocky and I became dearest friends, able to write a eulogy and have his oldest son. I was so disappointed I was unable to make it to Reading, PA in the dead of winter a couple years ago to be there at his funeral service, but I wrote a eulogy that his oldest son, Rocky Jr., read. Your child, they always tell you, be careful meeting your childhood idol. That wasn't true for me. I mean, it was a love affair. He wasn't easy to deal with, but loved the man to death. And when he retired, he had the 5th most home runs in baseball history at the time. And the four in front of him were all in the Hall of Fame. And for some reason, he didn't get that love to be in Cooperstown. But there was a few. How many of you were at down in Murray Hill when we did the statue?
Yeah.
The statue celebration. I know that was one of the greatest days. Here's a guy on his 80th birthday. In the hot sun of August 3rd, his birthday's August 3rd. I have trouble remembering my kids' birthdays, but Rocky's birthday is August 3rd, and he signed for hundreds of people in the dead of the heat in August. I'll never forget that April. I called his wife, Carmen, and I said, "Hey, Carmen, what are you doing for your husband's 80th birthday?" She goes, "Jesus Christ, Bobby, his birthday's in August and you're calling me in April. I don't know what we're going to do, if we're even going to be alive then." And I said, "I want to throw a birthday party for him." And all of a sudden, during that time, we did the statue committee was created and raised the funds, and were able to have a most incredible night and day with our man Rocky.
Yeah. Quite a story. All right, let's jump to the time today. How do you feel the team's doing so far and looking so far?
Well, to go 3-3, you opened the season with 4 at Seattle and 3 in the Dodgers. Seattle, obviously, one of the teams picked to win the World Series this year. Dodgers are back-to-back World Series champions. To have a chance with Gavin Williams on the mound tonight, thankfully, we don't have to wait up till 10:10 to watch the game. To have a chance to go 4-3 and have a winning road trip in Seattle, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Like every year, we're going to be in the hunt to win our division. It'll be us, Detroit, Kansas City are going to battle. We've won last 2 years. 3 of the last 4, and played in baseball in October. So there's one thing you're going to learn tonight. I'm going to stand at the door at the end of this evening, and if you don't say the word third to me, you're not allowed to leave. You're going to have to stick around and listen to more of this BS. The last 13 seasons in Major League Baseball, the last 13 seasons, we have the 3rd most wins in all of baseball. All of baseball. The Los Angeles Dodgers are number 1. The New York Yankees are number 2. Boo. And we're number 3. Important to know that the Yankees have 27 more wins than us in the 13 years. I went to Lakewood High. That's about 2 a year, right? I paid attention sort of in the math class. 2 a year. They have spent in those 13 years $2 billion more on players than we have. And so what does that mean other than the fact that we've had this sustained winning culture? 11 winning seasons in those 13 years, 8 postseason trips. Believe that Chris Antonetti, Mike Chernoff, and the guys with Paul Dolan's leadership, they know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. All right. You can't mention anyone by the name of Chase.
Chase DeLauder.
What new players are you most excited about?
Well, yeah, Chase is at the top of that list. Thankfully, x-rays last night were negative. Stephen Vogt was quick to tell everybody in the post-game presser that today would be an automatic scheduled off day for Chase, to give him 2 days in a row anyway, as we monitor his workload, as he's a young man, number 1 draft pick out of where is it? Jason Madison? Yeah, thank you. JMU. Yeah, I had a blocked there for a second. Kid from West Virginia, close to the Maryland border, number 1 draft pick, has had foot surgeries, had a hernia, had some other ankle issues, so his minor leagues have been derailed by injury, and then we were hopeful, which happened last year, late in the year, that he was able to play on a consistent basis, which made his MLB debut in the postseason, which is incredibly rare. And so he played awesome in the spring, healthy. And when he fouled that ball off the back foot, which he was telling reporters last night that he had never, ever done that, you truly never see a guy foul a ball off their back foot. Normally it's off their front foot, which is where they put the shin guard and all that, and which hit right on the bone of the foot, and which he had surgery on. And so it made everybody hesitate a little bit in our organization. But hopefully he'll be in the lineup Friday, and I can't wait for the crowd's reaction when he gets announced in the starting lineup on Friday at Progressive Field. Is going to be pretty wild, because this kid could put a charge in the ball. He's 6'4", 235, run like a deer, hit the ball 100-plus miles an hour every time it comes off his bat. He has a chance to make us pencil in somebody in right field, I think, for the first time since Manny Ramirez, I think. And I think Angel Martinez is another one. I think Angel Martinez really looked awesome in spring training, just more mature, a bigger body as he grows into who he is as a young man. He's got the genes. His dad was a big league player, catcher, played briefly for us back in the early 2000s. I think he's going to show that he belongs in the big leagues and be an impact player as well. Parker Messick, who had a great start in Seattle on the pitching side, is somebody to really keep an eye on. But the guy that I love to talk about and give a lot of kudos to is Cade Smith. Last year on July 28th, a certain pitcher of ours was suspended. Thrusting Cade Smith as a young pitcher into the closer's role. I happen to believe the closer role is the most difficult position in all of sports. More difficult than being a field goal kicker or a quarterback or a point guard or you name it, whatever sport, because your team has just busted their butt for 2.5 hours or more. And you come in and in one pitch you can blow it all up. And then you got to walk in the clubhouse and there's no music, which I've always found weird and have asked a lot of managers and coaches. We're going to lose 60 games anyway. So why do we treat it as it's a death march? But that's how they do it. All interviews are done in whispers. It is silent. And so you're you're the reason in your mind that you lost. And not saying that during the whole game we left 5 guys on third base with less than 2 outs or whatever. But you're the guy that gave up the pitch to lose the game. And you got to go home and sleep on that. And then you got to wake up and think you're a world beater and do it all over again the next day. So I think emotionally, stress-wise, it's the hardest job. And all of a sudden he's thrust into this, and boy, his month of August was pretty darn good. And then the month of September, the stats for Cade, kids from Western Canada, he's about 6'5", 245, another big, strong kid. I think he pitched 14 2/3 innings in the month of September. Did not walk a batter, struck out 25, and was 8 for 9 in save situations, which vaulted us over the Tigers to win our division. And for a young guy in our own system to be able to do that, take that role, people need to really stand up and notice what a remarkable talent he is.
That's fantastic. All right, so let's talk a little bit. To me, what got us there in that stretch, though, was the relievers. That they just came in and seemed to, and they've already started the year. I mean, talk a little bit about that group of guys.
Well, Hunter Gaddis, with Cade Smith before the player that we don't talk about at the end, and Eric Zabrowski, another Western Canadian kid. Our bullpen had the second lowest ERA in all of baseball, second most saves, where our starters had the most innings pitched. A young rotation that we went to a six-man rotation in September, and that young rotation ended up throwing 888 innings, which was the best in the American League, which we challenged that young staff in spring training. You need to go deeper so we don't burn out our bullpen, especially in October, and they met the challenge. And pitching will be the strength of this team again. We'll catch the ball, and like most every team, is how consistent will your offense be. And we think, again, we don't win the division, we'll be disappointed. We should.
All right, very cool. So you haven't really said one thing yet. What player this year do you think is going to have the biggest breakout season? The one that really, is it going to be one of the rookies, or is it going to be one of the regulars that?
Jose Ramirez. How about that for a bit? How about that? You bet on the favorite, huh? You don't win a lot of money on that, but what the heck? But I'm right, yeah. So we got to talk about him for a second. He is 5 games played from being the all-time most games played in our uniform, which is pretty remarkable. So his extension, the second extension, he came to us as a 16-year-old kid, left 8th, 9th grade in the Dominican. He grew up in a city, Bani, B-A-N-I, Dominican Republic. Left school at the age of 16. We signed him, I think, for $50,000. Nobody wanted him. If you can imagine, he was about 5'8", maybe 160, and just this little guy running around all the diamonds in the Dominican, and no team would sign him. And all of a sudden, one of our guys said, this kid is a dynamo. Let's give him an opportunity. And for those who also remember, we had him at shortstop for a year right before Lindor was ready to be a shortstop for us, and he didn't play well, and we sent him to the minors, and the whole thought process was we got a kid that might be a utility infielder because he's a switch hitter. He could play second, he could play a little short, play a little third, and nobody thought he'd turn into a perennial MVP candidate. That was all just him. His desire to be the best he could possibly be. And the whole reason that got started, the first contract, his agent, and not many agents would allow this to happen, was willing to have Paul Dolan and Chris Antonetti sit across Jose and his agent. And Paul was honest with him. He said, you're coming on free agency. You know what the scenario is in our organization. We can't pay you what you deserve. You're one of the best players in the game of baseball. And we just can't give you what is equal to being a perennial MVP and one of the best players. But I would hope that you would be willing to at least begin discussions on, can we find a number that is respectful to your place in the game and in our franchise history? right then and there, most agents would say it's time to go, right? He could have been a $35 million a year kind of guy. It's a lot of coin for the agent. Jose turns to Paul and says, "We will find a number." Paul also said that it's a two-way street in a sense. We need to sign you to a contract that's respectful to you, but also respectful to us as an organization so we can build a winning team around you. We could easily give one player $35 million a year, and we'd be a losing team every year because we wouldn't be able to build a team around him. This is not a one-player business, the game of baseball. And we were able to find that number. And one of his best quotes, and the union didn't like it, was, I don't need 200. When the media asked him right away, why'd you leave all that money on the table? He says, I don't need to have 200 plus million to be happy in life. I can live very happily on 150 million. It's like, no shit. Yeah. But that's him. Because at the age of 16, we were all he knows. And when he's done with this current contract, he will be 40. He will be in our uniform from 16 years old to the age of 40. Therefore, he will be number one in hits, homers, games played, doubles, total bases, extra base hits, you name it. Other than I don't think he'll pass Kenny Lofton in stolen bases. I don't think anybody in our franchise history will ever steal more bases than Kenny Lofton. So as number one in every major offensive category in our organizational history, that gets you a statue, that gets you a retired number, and it should get you a place in Cooperstown where he's headed.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I wanted to talk a little bit about the one new real big rule change this year was this automated ball strike challenge system. What do you personally think of it?
I think it's awesome.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We were one of the few teams in the Cactus League 2 years ago, not this past spring, but a year prior, where it was tested in spring training with major league hitters. 5 years ago or more, the automated ball strike system was put in play in Class A baseball. And so it took a while, as did the pitch clock, larger bases, the no shift, starts in the low A. You ask the players, managers, umpires, and front office, what did you think about it? What do we fix as it moved up the ladder to go to high A ball and then double A, then triple A, and then you test it in spring training. And so baseball's been very experimental with it and to get it right when it gets to the big leagues. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. So I'm going to be a teeny bit specific as to how it works, just to give you a sense, because you're going to hear about it all year long. You're going to watch our games, and you're going to wondering what's going on when they stop the game for 5 seconds and you see this graphic come up with the ball. Are you
going to show it?
Oh, yeah, on the scoreboard, and on television. So let's start with the basics. You get 2 challenges a game. This is only with the automated ball strike system. You also get your challenges on whether a ball's a home run, whether a guy got tagged out at second base. That's a whole different animal with video replay. These 2 challenges are specific to the automated ball strike system. So 2 per team. The only people that can challenge a pitch, and when you see somebody on the field tap their head, the pitcher, catcher, or hitter are the only 3 people, Umpire hears somebody scream out of the dugout, challenge it. The umpire will disavow the challenge. You can't get help from anybody. If a guy's on second base and he does some sort of signal to the hitter because he's got that line right down the strike zone, if the umpires or any of the umpires see it, they'll disallow the challenge. You cannot get any help. So it's only the pitcher, the catcher, and the hitter. Stephen Vogt, first day of spring training, shared with all our media. Our pitchers are not allowed to challenge. And this is not unique to us. There's a lot of teams. No pitchers are allowed to challenge. And he said, because Tanner Bybee would challenge the first two pitches of the game because that guy never threw a ball in his life. So he can't trust pitchers that they think a ball or a strike. So only our catcher is allowed to challenge a ball or strike call. We haven't done it very well yet. We're still learning on that end. And then the hitter. And it'll be interesting to see how the flow of the season goes as to the philosophy. Do you save one for the last 3 innings when you need a situation? Do you use them when in the second inning when there's bases loaded and it's a 3-2 count and it happens to be Stephen Kwan or Jose who have the great eyes, great strike plate discipline? Do you allow them to do it in the second inning thinking maybe a run will score? So that's going to be a pretty unique scenario. Now, what is a strike? What is the strike zone? When you watch TV, you'll see a rectangle on your TV. That is nowhere near the strike zone. So don't throw anything at your TV when you're screaming that, why didn't you challenge that pitch? It's a graphic. And we actually, this winter, had baseball talking to the TV people saying, could you get rid of that because it's going to confuse people, thinking that that's really the automated strike zone. And TV said, we've invested a lot of money in these graphics, and so we're going to keep them. So in Class A baseball, the first year, they had the strike zone start at the front of home plate. Home plate is 17 inches wide, and it's 8.5 inches deep. So they had the strike zone at the front of home plate, and they found out all these kids who throw 98 miles an hour in a sinker would nip the front edge of the strike zone and go down and hit the ground. In the system, that'd be a strike because any part of the baseball that hits the strike zone is considered a strike. Like tennis, if you've ever watched tennis and the ball lands on a line, it's in. Same thing with baseball. So they decided hitting is so hard these days, we can't allow that to be called a strike. The average batting average in Major League Baseball today is 242 because pitching is so damn hard to hit.
Can you remember what it was in 1979?
In 79, it probably was about 285, and that's why still the 300 hitter was considered something special. Now I think there's 5 guys who hit 300 in all of baseball last year or something, maybe 7 at the most. So they decided to move the strike zone to the middle of the plate. So that pitch wasn't considered a strike at the front edge. So it's in the middle of the plate, and it's 27% of a person's height to 53 inches, Did I say feet? Yeah. 27 inches to 53.5 inches.
Is that as they stand as a batter? Or
every guy was measured their batting stance in spring training. Stephen Kwan's strike zone in Hosey's a little different than Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. So everybody had to get measured, but the measurements are the same.
On the ground.
Yeah, as they stand
Not
on the
as
ground.
they stand in the.
Well, in the batter's
crouch.
box.
Some of them
yeah.
crouch.
Well, but that's their normal batting stance is
they were
what they
measured
were
for
measured in their batting stance. And typically it's 27 inches to 53 and a half inches, you know, your chest to above the knees. Now, the interesting thing, the strike zone is actually the shape of a football, not a rectangle, which was another way to try to be less lenient to the pitcher and give the hitter a little extra chance to hit. Because we like the ball put in play. We want action on the base paths. Because, again, hitting is just so darn hard that when they went to this change, they wanted to give the hitter a teeny bit more of an advantage. And it takes less than 8 seconds. By the time you have to call it within like 3 seconds or so, the hitter, the pitcher, or the catcher, and within 5 seconds, it's up on the scoreboard, and it'll tell you if it's a ball or strike. And so it doesn't affect the pace of play. Game keeps moving. I think it's phenomenal.
All right, but you're.
Did you get all that? 23 inches, 53, 27. Yeah. It's pretty cool, I think.
All right, but isn't there a very explicit admission that the machine is better than the umpire?
Well, no, umpires actually last year on a whole were 94% accurate, which in our game.
6% pisses me off.
Yeah. 6% isn't a large number when you're talking about a couple hundred pitches, 300 pitches a game, and you're missing. Like now, it tells you exactly how difficult. There were guys challenging early in the season, and the ball was 0.01 inch off the strike zone. Ump called it a strike. For some reason, the hitter decided to challenge, and he was right, because that ball was 0.01 inch off the plate. So umpires are pretty darn good. Umpires. Now, some have some bad days. There's no question.
Do you think
Joe Brinkman in the 1995 World Series had the worst day of any umpire in the history of the game. Do
you think there's any chance eventually, I don't know, 10 years from now, it'll be all automated?
Oh, no. No. There's no. The human element behind home plate. Again, these guys are pretty darn good at what they do. Stand back there and guy throwing 101 mile an hour, and all you're wearing is a chest protector.
Right.
You know, it's not an easy job.
All right. So I saw an article today, I think it was. You're done with changes at Progressive. So you talked a little bit about new food stands. What is your favorite addition this year?
Well, the one thing I think first that you're going to notice when you walk in visually is every seat is midnight navy blue. It was a 3-year project. We knew that from the start to switch over 36,000.
Mine on an opening
seats.
day also has cushions.
Yes, you do. You're a big timer. Sit in those cushioned seats behind home plate. And so that's the one thing. And the ballpark not having two different colors, the faded green with the new midnight navy blue, it really looks awesome. I mean, the ballpark looks phenomenal. We're going to have new marketplace concepts. As I said, we're going to have 35 points of sale where it's grab and go. Again, we know exactly what your habit is when you come to us. We know exactly to the number. If we have a 7-10 game, how many people are in our building at 6:40, and how many are in at 6:45, how many are, come right when the gates open, and where you go immediately. If you buy something, we know the point of sale. And we react accordingly to take care of your habits. This is why we've gone to credit card only.
Yeah.
It was something near, Patch, was it 88%, 89% of the people who visited our ballpark for 2 straight years used a credit card to pay for everything. And so we needed to up the number of credit card devices, and therefore, when you do it completely, people understand
Yeah.
that no cash.
I actually like it. It's fast.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's turn it over. And, who else better to ask a question what's coming up than Bobby? So, questions from the audience.
There's one right here. Terrace
What
Club's
about
gone.
the Terrace Club?
Gone.
Gone.
Say goodbye. It's the KeyBank North Coast Social. Whole different concept. At the day we opened in '94, the Terrace Club was the hottest restaurant in Cleveland. So hot you had to have a membership. Not only did you have to have season tickets, but you had to have a membership to get in. And there were 2 sittings, a 7:10 game. You came in at 5:30. We kicked you out at 6:45. At 7 o'clock, the second wave came in, and that crew could stay the rest of the game or go to their seats. After a number of years, when our town shifted, the Fortune 500 companies left, not as many people accessing the Terrace Club or the membership concept. We opened it to everybody. Come up, have a burger, watch the game, get out of the elements. And then when it started raining, there'd be 5,000 people in the Terrace Club, and that didn't work. So we decided we had to change that piece of real estate. As you go around our ballpark, we look at our ballpark, so okay, the Terrace Club, awesome space, great piece of real estate, was not generating any revenue. So we needed to get our heads together, and the smarter people than I in our building put together all the renovations around the ballpark, starting with the corner bar, and then what we do upstairs in the Blue Moon patio and the upper deck. And the Terrace Hall has become an incredibly popular space, which was the old 4th floor of the Terrace Club. So a lot of fun spaces throughout the ballpark, yeah.
Okay, the question is, what do you attribute to all these young players coming through the system and yet having so much success?
This year, the 26-man roster, when Hunter Gaddis gets brought up, hopefully this homestand, he'll be healthy enough. He's pitching down in Columbus right now. I think he'll make it 14 or 15 of the 26-man roster are homegrown players, which speaks to what you're asking about. It's an approach of a commitment financially and philosophically on how we develop the holistic approach of our players. We just don't throw bats and balls on the field. It still happens today, not as much as it used to. In the minor leagues, you'd throw the bats and balls on the field, and the good talent would rise, and the rest of them get out of the way. Well, we don't believe in that. We believe every kid that we scouted and then signed has the opportunity to be a big league player if we can help them along the way. So it's all about acquisition of high character, quality kids. It's about providing every resource possible throughout our 7 campuses that we have. People don't normally look at it that way, but we have Progressive Field, our Goodyear complex, the Dominican complex, and 4 minor league clubs. So those 7 places is where we have now chefs, and we have state-of-the-art technology for pitching tunnels and hitting tunnels, robotic cameras, strength and conditioning coaches. We have sleep coaches. Wouldn't it be cool to have a sleep coach? We have it all to give our kids a chance. That's where we can spend our money. Not $35 million on one player, but we can. And in the last surveys or whatever, we were in the top 10 in money spent in player development in baseball.
And there you go. That's the
Yeah.
answer. Yeah, right there. How many players from the 95 season are going to get in the Hall of Fame? Nope.
Well,
Yeah,
there's
in
two
the
different questions, yeah. Should and will. Unfortunately, I don't think, sadly, Manny, Albert, and Omar will make it. Just because of certain situations of each of the players, PEDs and other things. They all deserve it. Kenny Lofton is the odd one out. We need the conversation with Kenny Lofton when he got only 4.6% of the vote his first ballot. If you don't receive 5% of the voting on your first ballot to stay on the ballot for 5 years, you're off. So now his conversation will go to one of those era committees. But there's a groundswell. There's a lot of people. Have you seen it? Anybody here really into this stuff and go on social media? They'll put Ichiro Suzuki's numbers alongside Kenny Lofton, and they're the same player. Statistically, there's no question in our mind the most dynamic leadoff hitter in the history of our franchise, one of the most dynamic players in our franchise history, played 17 years. He belongs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. I know that they're just not asking it. What's the date of this year's 10-cent beer night?
I'm going to give you a bit of trivia that most people don't know. There was a nickel beer night prior to 10-cent beer night. That same year, 1974. I wasn't working then. I didn't start till 79. Nothing happened on nickel beer night. So the organization, the promotions people, Jackie York and the group, who I've gotten to know over the years, she wasn't working there when I first started.
They doubled the price.
They doubled the price. The couple days before, we're in Texas and there's a brawl. One of our guys, Milt Wilcox, I think it was, drilled Lenny Randall. And Lenny Randall, in the next at bat, he threw at him again. He jumped out of the way. Then he laid down a drag bunt down first base, and instead of running to first base, he ran straight at Milt Wilcox and tackled him and beat the daylights out of him. And it caused a huge brawl. And Pete Franklin, for the next 3-4 nights, kept talking about, let's get fired up and scream at Billy Martin and the Rangers. And it happened to be on 10-cent beer night.
Oops.
So somebody has a few too many and runs out to right field, Jeff Burrows, and grabs his hat. Mike Hargrove, Rookie of the Year in 1974 for the Texas Rangers, playing first base, said he almost got hit in the back of the head by a full bottle of Jack Daniels that was fired at him. And so when people came out onto the field, the Rangers, Grover said, I never beat up more people in my life, you know. And he's a Texas guy who would, from West Texas, that would be in bars. And he said, I don't know how many people we all beat up. And the cops were coming to us telling us to get in the clubhouse and quit beating people up. And after that, there were 2 more 10-cent beer nights that same season. Not many people know that. And not a single thing happened. Not a single thing happened. They had 2 more.
Next week will be a 10-cent beer night, everybody.
I don't think we're going to do that. I don't think we're going to do that. Yeah, $10.
All right, we got a question right here. Yell it out.
For 6 ounces.
I hate to ask this question, but what is your opinion about the chances of a player strike or lockout December 1st?
Yeah, no, that's an okay question.
Question is, what is his opinion on the chances of a player lockout December 1st?
Well, yeah, either a lockout or, it's a player strike or an owner's lockout, whichever side decides to shut it down. I'm an eternal optimist. Our game is in such a beautiful place right now. The action on the field is so much better than it ever has been. We used to be 10 years ago home runs, walks, and strikeouts, and it was as boring a product as you could put on a professional sports field. Now the athletes are unbelievable. TV ratings are up, radio ratings are up, attendance is up across the board. Guys are getting paid $70 million a year, $60 million a year, $40 million a year. I just don't see how that momentum, what could they possibly argue about other than the most important aspect is the disparity in payroll. Baseball, not to belabor the point, but it's important for you to know, the last few years in the last collective bargaining agreement, baseball and the players have tried to do competitive balance issues, knowing that there's an economic reality, the disparity in payroll. For example, every team now is only allowed 4 farm teams. Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox used to have 10. We had 5. Mahoning Valley was one, and we had to give up Mahoning Valley. So every team now is only allowed 4 farm teams, and every team now is only allowed 165 athletes. So there's an even playing field. So how efficient are you in player development, in scouting and signing and developing young players? We know how to do it on the pitching side better than most, if not the best. The Asian money, or I should say international money, was the Wild West. The Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox, et cetera, big market teams could spend wildly in the international market. Now every team only has the same amount of money. So that is an even playing field. So they've tried to do some things. And we do have revenue sharing in our sport. People don't know that, but local generated revenue. Your TV money, radio money, ticket money. 31% of that goes into a pile. Now, obviously, the Yankees and Dodgers pile's bigger than us in Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, but it's still 31%. And that money's divvied up amongst the bottom 15 teams in revenue. They're supposed to use that to sign players, not put it to their bottom line. Some teams have not done that, and the players' union has taken them to court and made sure everybody does what they're supposed to be. So economic majors, where do you not want to be? Right in the middle. And where do you think we are? Because we try to win. We try to win. The Yankees, Dodgers make $300 million a year on their local television. We're at the top end of the 15 of us in middle market, and we make 50. Their average ticket price is $110, $115 a game, a ticket. Dodgers, Yankees, times 3 million people. Ours is $33.50 for 2 million people. So just those two show you the economic reality of the game of baseball when people in the wintertime go, how come you're not spending wildly like the Dodgers or Yankees? And you try to explain to them the economic reality. They don't want to hear it, and you shouldn't have to bother with it. It's why we hate the off season so badly. Because all it is big market teams spending crazily. Like, who thinks Kyle Tucker of the Dodgers is worth $60 million?
The Dodgers do.
The Dodgers do. Because they can.
Right.
Last year it was $469 million payroll of the Dodgers with 130 of it in luxury tax. The Marlins had a $69 million payroll. So there was a $400 million disparity in payroll. That's going to be the issue that's discussed. While we've tried this competitive balance, we need to get that concept figured out.
Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Bob DiBiasio.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Guys, please be safe.
Thank you, everybody.
I think it's still raining. You won't melt. Go home safely and come back next week for Cindy Barber, everybody. Thank you for coming out.